New Zealand's Reserve Bank governor has warned that a big slowdown in China's economy or a major drought caused by El Nino could trigger a recession in New Zealand. So how do we best protect our economy from these external events that are out of our control, or can we? The New Zealand Initiative Executive Director, Oliver Hartwich, joins me now. Oliver, thanks so much for your time this morning. How vulnerable right at the moment is our economy?
Well, I think the Reserve Bank was completely right in their statement that we are seeing a downturn in the global economy, and that, of course, is reflected in the domestic economy here. But I think I would put some perspective on it, because, as you said earlier, we are still expecting 2.1% growth for this year. We are actually expecting growth to pick up a little bit over the next few years. So by 2018, we might be back to 3%. So the way that I would put it is that in the hospital of the global economy, New Zealand is now in the ward for hypochondriacs.
Okay, so that's very nice. But here's the thing that worries me, because as we've said before, we've talked about this before, we have a very enviable economy. A lot of other countries would like to have our economy. But many of those other countries that envy us, we need them to retain our economy. So we're not an island on our own, we're dependent on them. Can we protect ourselves from the next GFC?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. We are a small trading economy, and we're really dependent on what's happening in other parts of the world. So we're seeing China, for example, slow down. We notice, of course, that the European debt crisis is not solved, but just postponed. And so we're dependent on all of these international developments. But having said that, I mean, we can't do much about it, but we know that whenever things go wrong, we have at least one automatic stabilizer, and that's our exchange rate. So we can see these fluctuations in our economy directly reflected in the exchange rate. And when the exchange rate falls, that's obviously good news for exporters. We also have one luxury, and that is we have interest rates that are still definitely positive. So we've got some room for maneuver for the Reserve Bank, where other economies basically are at 0%. So they've got no chance to really recover and revive the economies via monetary stimulus.
Okay, so we have a couple of tools in the toolbox. The next global financial crisis, I mean, it is unavoidable there will be one. When will there be one?
I think you shouldn't ask an economist. Again, you should ask astrologers for that, because we can't put a direct timing on it. What you're absolutely right about is that the next global financial crisis is unavoidable. What I would also say is that the next global financial crisis will probably be worse than the previous one, because we have now really exhausted all tools in the toolbox for Western economies. They are more indebted than they were in 2008. They have interest rates at zero, so you can't cut them any further unless you go into unorthodox monetary policy like quantitative easing. So I think the next global financial crisis will be worse, because we simply have no room for maneuver anymore for Western economies.
Okay, so that's very interesting. I just want to sort of, if you like, the executive summary of what you've just said. A lot of countries were able to lessen the impact of the last GFC because they borrowed and spent. Well, now they still have those debts, and so they cannot do that next time round. So how much worse can it then be next time round?
Nobody knows, but I mean, the last GFC was bad enough, and we have seen massive corrections in GDP in a number of European, North American and other countries. I think the next GFC will probably be harder, except we won't really have anything we could do about it at the time, because when we were saved last time, we were saved by low interest rates, we were saved by monetary stimulus, and we were saved by China. All three factors we can't expect
we can't rely on any of those.
Role.
Yeah, we can't rely on any of those for next time. All right, so very quickly, Oliver, finally, for people who are listening to us now, watching us now, what things can you do in your own individual personal economy to help shield yourself from the inevitable downturn?
Well, I think what you can do, it depends on the stage of your life. I think it's always good when you're young to get a decent education, because we know that the future economy will be
but more short-term than that. Should people be resisting borrowing money at the moment?
Well, I think short-term you should just calm down, because we are not in recession. We're far away from it in New Zealand. Be a bit more careful about your money, but don't go into panic mode, because we are not there yet.
Okay, Oliver, good. Thank you very much. Oliver Hartwich, New Zealand Initiative Executive Director. And of course, this whole thing stems from the fact that Graham Wheeler, for the first time Reserve Bank Governor, mentioned the word recession as a warning yesterday.